Alright, so let's talk this over for a minute. Here's my SE6. Now if you've watched any of my videos, you know that this is my go-to blade. And for a while now, I've been looking for a blade that puts this one kind of up to the challenge to compete. Now I've gained a ton of confidence in this knife. I've basically used it in all scenarios. I know I can trust it. I know how to use it with as many different, camping, bushcraft techniques as I know, and I'm still learning, but, So, anyway, I was trying to get this thing some competition, and this is what happened. Chris Tanner from Preparedmind 101 has talked forever about his Jessica, which is his BK7. So the Becker BK7, as soon as I felt it in my hand, I knew that Chris was onto something. And so, I really thought this was going to be the blade that maybe this year took over the reins for my favorite knife and maybe pushed the SE6 aside. Now, the only problem I had was this isn't really a true 6-inch blade. So I was really looking for a knife that was more in the same scale or same, I'd say, class as the SE6. Now, I was also looking for something roughly in a similar price range, so I didn't want to go, buying like a Survive Knives GSO 5.1 or something like that. I mean, that's kind of out of my budget. So I was trying to find something that was realistic, and maybe instead of looking at this, BK7 as the replacement, maybe there was another knife. So this is what happened. I stumbled into the Tops Tex Creek XL. Now, unfortunately, this didn't quite do what I needed it to do. I really wanted to fall in love with this knife. As soon as I saw it, I was like, wow, this could be the one. And if you haven't seen my video on this, take a quick look. It gives my first impressions of this blade, so you can see what it is about this that wasn't quite working for me. So I've been in the search, and based on what I learned about this Tex Creek XL, and after holding it for hours on end and trying to see what it was about it that I didn't exactly like, it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, oh crap, the things that I don't like about this, I actually found on another knife. And I should have figured that out from the get-go, but I just wasn't thinking straight. And this is what happened. The Tops Silent Hero. So you can pretty easily see why the knives I picked are all kind of being discussed here. I mean, maybe with the exception of the BK7, which is a little on the longer side. But when you really take a look at that SE6 in comparison to that Tops Tex Creek XL, man, I mean, it's a pretty close choice. I mean, minus the, the finger choil that you don't have on the Tops Tex Creek. It gets you pretty close, and even in terms of the fact that they both have some jimping and somewhat similar of a blade shape. Now, you kind of have more of a saber grind on the Tops Tex Creek XL versus the full flat grind on the SE6. But, it's really in the handle design where things start to really differentiate themselves. And then moving from the Tops Tex Creek XL down to the Silent Hero, now we're really talking about a differentiation in the blade shape. And, the biggest complaint I had with the Tex Creek XL was the lack of a choil. And it really hit me that the Silent Hero kind of had a similar handle shape, but gave me the choil that I really wished the Tex Creek had. And so I figured, what the heck? Let's give this thing a try. And now it's up to me to determine whether or not I think this Silent Hero could be a potential replacement for my SE6. By looking at these side by side, I'm really conflicted. I mean, I really love the look and the feel of that Tex Creek, minus the fact that the handle's a little bit thin and it's missing that choil. And at the same time, I'm not a real big fan of the Rocky Mountain tread, which you get on the Silent Hero. So, it's one of those things. I mean, it's not like you can go to Tops website and custom make a knife. I mean, maybe what I'm looking for is more of a custom design, but you know, I want a Tops knife. I think the value's there. I mean, these are great blades, really nice quality, well made, nice handles, great material, look awesome. You know, USA made. It's got all sorts of stuff going for it. I just really wish these two knives were literally combined into kind of the best of both of them. And I looked at Tops website. I thought, who knows, maybe there's another blade out there that does that, something that they make that I just was not aware of, and I can't find it. So, you know, if anybody knows of another blade that kind of compares these two and combines them into one almost sort of perfect blade, I don't know, let me know. But unfortunately, I think I need to choose between these two. And if money wasn't an option, I'd probably keep them both. But realistically, where I'm paying for my gear right now, I need to keep one of these and sell one off. So I'm kind of up against it right now, which one I think I need to keep. That's kind of what I'm battling between my brain right now and trying to figure out which one's going to be a fit. So a real close detail of the handles, you'll notice that they're very similar in a lot of ways. Same thickness of a tang, reasonably same thickness in the actual scales, red liners that make it pop, nice lanyard hole. You know, the bolt design's slightly different, and actually the handle design on the Silent Hero is just a tad bit longer when you compare the two in length, but in profile they're just about the same. Not really too much there in difference. You have a slightly more pronounced little hump there where your you know, where your fingers go right there, whereas this one's a little more subtle. But you know, I don't know. All things considered, pretty much very similar handles. So now it's down to feel. With the Tex Creek XL, has a really nice feeling grip. You know, my fingers fit real nice. I got a good little sort of fulcrum point right there. The balance is a little front weighted for me, and I've discussed that in a bit of detail on one of my prior videos. But where this lacks for me again, as it's missing that choil right there. I would just love to have that right there so I can actually get a little bit more of a controlled action doing some finer tasks. And I think if this had a choil, it would actually be a no-brainer for me, and this would hands down be the one I'd keep. With the Silent Hero, the Rocky Mountain tread actually doesn't bother me like I thought it might, and I know a lot of people are kind of against it. I'm actually surprised that it doesn't bother me at all, so that's actually a good thing. I mean, I really do want to like this knife. I love the drop point design on the blade. You know, it does have the choil, but the only difference being now, if you actually compare the width of the blade, let me grab that for you, compared to that's how wide the XL is. So you definitely have some more thickness on the profile of this blade, so it ends up kind of spanning my fingers a little bit far. Now I think I'll get used to that. The very first minute I picked this up, I was kind of like, it's not what I'm looking for, but it is actually pretty good. I think I'll get used to that. Pretty nice, and it feels good in my hand. Has a nice lanyard hole both on the front and on the back of the handle, which is actually, that's a pretty nice feature that you don't get on the XL. So this might really work for me. I'm just going to sit here and hold this blade for a night. Made in USA. Silent Hero. Drop point design. Nice finish. Sharp as hell. Choil. Comfortable handle. Starting to hit most of my main points. And I do like a high saber grind like this, so that's pretty cool. So I'm going to sit around and hold on to this thing for a little bit. See what it feels like, see if I like it, and try and draw a nice comparison between the Silent Hero and the Tex Creek XL. One more detail to note is on the sheaths. Now this sheath here is the Tex Creek XL sheath. It did not start its life as a dangler sheath, but where I was intending on carrying this, I added a loop and a D-ring to allow a dangle style. Now, unfortunately, if you look at the design on the sheath for the Silent Hero, this loop is very wide, so I don't think I can get a D-ring on there. If you look at the comparison here, you know, obviously the D-ring does seem to fit pretty well on the sheath for the Tex Creek XL, but not on the, you know, there's no ability on the Silent Hero sheath to do that. So I don't think I can turn this into a dangler very easily. I'm sure there's a way I can modify it without too much difficulty, but it's certainly not as easy as adding a loop and a D-ring like on the sheath for the Tex Creek XL. Now, on the other hand, I really do prefer the black sheath. I think this is pretty sharp and looks good. And actually it has a snap, which is kind of a nice feature, whereas this is more of just a sleeve style sheath that does not have any sort of retention other than the friction that the sheath creates itself. So pros and cons in either one of these. I'm not a big fan of this brown. If it was a darker brown, I'd probably like it, but this kind of orangey brown, I'm not a big fan, and I don't think it really fits the knife too well. But anyway, that's my initial impression. That's the battle I'm up against. I'm going to play around with these and see what I think. One or the other has to go, so I'm kind of up against it, but it's not a bad problem to have. So yeah, I definitely have had worse problems. I just simply at this point can't justify keeping both, can't afford both, and you know, one of them's got to go. So anyway, just a real quick video and a real quick comparison between the Tops Silent Hero and the Tops Tex Creek XL.